Grand Theft Auto Vice City was first released for the PlayStation 2 on October 29, 2002, with later releases for PC, Xbox phones, and tablets. GTA Vice City is often remembered for being the 80s nostalgia-filled, overshadowed middle child game that bridges the gap between GTA 3 and GTA San Andreas. The game being released so soon after the monster hit that was GTA 3, 1 year and 7 days to be exact, this could mean that Rockstar was rushing this game's production to ride off of the success of their previous installment. So then that leaves us with the question of, is GTA Vice City more than just a stepping stone between the two more popular titles that surround it, or is it a rushed clone of GTA 3 that falls flat on its face? Let's find out. The story follows Tommy Vercetti, a member of the Farrelly crime family in Liberty City who had been sent to prison after being convicted of killing 11 men. We joined him 15 years later in 1986 as he is released after serving his sentence. The current head of the Farrelly crime family, Sonny, decides that having Tommy back on the streets of Liberty would be bad for business, so he decides to kill two birds with one stone. He sends Tommy down south to the sunny palm tree-filled beaches of Vice City in order to set up a base of operations as well as get Tommy out of the city. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned as the first deal is ambushed, leaving Tommy without any money or drugs. It is now up to Tommy, with the help of the locals, to get revenge on whoever was responsible for the ambush and to build up his own criminal empire in Vice City. When people talk about the old 3D GTA games, the graphics don't tend to be a point of praise. I mean, look at this game. The polygons for the characters are so jagged that they would feel more appropriate on the N64, and the cars look more like toy cars than they do real ones. But other than that, I would say everything else looks pretty good, from the high-rise buildings and neat little details such as the little droplets of water that splash onto the screen when driving in a boat or when it's raining, to the beautiful skyline that changes based on the weather, impactful visual effects of the explosions, and the honestly very well-modeled weapons. Finally, I'd like to mention that because of where and when this game takes place, the entire graphical feel is enriched in neon and bursting full of color, which makes this game probably the most distinctive visually out of all the 3D games.
Listen, you're...
The gameplay entirely revolves around the open world that Vice City is. What I mean by this is that since this game basically lets you loose into the world after completing the first mission, you are then able to do whatever you want and you can play this game any way you want to. If you want to go on a rampage and kill as many civilians and cops as possible before you are taken out, you can, or if you want to do the story missions that eventually beat the game, you can do that. If you just want to cruise around the city and listen to the radio, you could also do that, or if you want to complete everything the game has to offer to get 100% completion, you could even do that, because there is no wrong way to play this game. The way this game controls is stiff when on foot and slippery when in vehicles. I mean this because when you're on foot, your control of Tommy feels limited. Examples of this include, it is very difficult to change his direction when he runs at full sprint, he is not able to climb onto walls, and he can't switch his targets when auto-aiming without having to aim in again. Now with when Tommy is in any type of vehicle, whether it be a car, truck, boat, or helicopter, the problem is that they turn way too fast, which ends up disorienting you and making you crash into a wall, into another vehicle, or even possibly the vehicle flipping over. There are many types of missions that you could do in this game. These include story missions, asset missions, service vehicle missions, rampages, and many other miscellaneous missions. Story missions are your standard fare of having to complete objectives that become increasingly harder the farther you get in the story. These objectives usually tend to be kill certain people or survive in a gunfight, but they do tend to mix it up a lot, like when you must intimidate store owners by destroying all their windows in under 5 minutes or having to fly a toy helicopter so you can drop bombs into certain spots in a building. Asset missions are what you must complete in order for a business to start generating profits, and they will either have the same structure as the story missions or something completely different, such as delivering 50 packages of ice cream to pedestrians, stealing specific types of cars to sell them, or just simply spending $300 on private dances. Service vehicle missions are essentially doing the job of whichever service vehicle you're in to gain some pretty helpful rewards, such as an increase on your max health, max armor, and even becoming completely fireproof. Rampages are where you must go well on a rampage, because you are given infinite ammo to a certain weapon and must kill a certain amount of gang members or destroy a certain amount of vehicles before you run out of time. Finally, we have the miscellaneous missions, which covers everything else in the game, such as Cone Crazy, in which you must drive through 5 checkpoints before the time runs out and without hitting any traffic cones, Pizza Delivery, which is self-explanatory, and the Hitman missions, in which you are tasked to take out targets, sometimes even in very specific ways. The difficulty in this game is overall lopsided, but it could either be lopsided in your favor or against it. What I mean by this is that the missions get quite hard very quickly, the cars are all paper thin and end up exploding pretty easily, guns do a lot of damage to you, the police go all in when they are chasing you, you lose all your weapons if you're wasted or busted, and while you have to deal with all that, you're still playing with the aforementioned stiff controls. But I still argue that this game can be easy since you have infinite lives and infinite retries with every mission, and it's just a matter of patience and repetition until you eventually master a mission or get lucky. Combine this with the rewards you can get from the service missions as well as the rewards you can get from collecting the hidden packages, because with these you could easily turn this game from something that kicks you while you're down to a walk in the park. There are 3 types of music in this game: in-game music, radio music, and the tape deck. In-game music only plays during the intro and the credits. Despite only being in 2 parts of the game, they are the most memorable pieces of music since the intro is played every time the game is booted up and the credits are about 5.5 minutes long. As for radio music, it is only played when you are in a vehicle, indoors, or sometimes faintly in the background of certain cutscenes. The music in this game is full of all the best hits from that point in the decade from many popular solo artists, bands, rappers, and one-hit wonders, all from many different genres, as well as also including 2 different talk radio stations and ads that play during station breaks. These genres are well represented, each with their own radio station, which are all headed by comedic stereotypical fans of that certain genre of music. Finally, we have the tape deck, which to my knowledge at least is only available on certain versions of the game. This is because it's what allows you to import your own music saved on whatever you're playing on into the game and lets it be played on the radio. So with this, you can create your own personal playlist of music regardless of whether it fits the time period of the game or not. So after all that, do I think that GTA Vice City is only a mere stepping stone between GTA 3 and GTA San Andreas, or just a rush clone of GTA 3? I would definitely say no to the first question, but yes to the second. GTA Vice City stands on its own as a great game, even if it is sandwiched between 2 more popular and influential titles, not only within its own series, but also in the entirety of gaming as a whole. Now about why I think that GTA Vice City was a rush clone of GTA 3 is because it clearly was. The game's engine, movement, and graphics are all similar to this game's predecessor, the map is super small, and this game's story overall is the shortest in the entire series. But where this game falters with all that, it more than makes up for it with the world that Rockstar had created and how much more of a character it has than the series' previous installment. It has memorable characters which are all voiced by an all-star celebrity cast, awesome 80s music with great DJs and funny commercials, and bright visuals that really sell the Florida setting. Overall, I would say that it is honestly very impressive that Rockstar were able to create such a great game in only a year. And with all that said, I would easily recommend this game. Thanks for watching, and thank you to Heavenly Demon Zero for choosing this game for me to review. If you also want to have the chance to choose what game I should review, check out the Patreon link below.